Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Boomy and you're watching my channel Boomy Reactions. Now today guys, I would like to share with you another one of Max Miller's videos. I do love watching anything from his channel. I think the combination of having a little history lesson about a food or a recipe and then combining it with actually making it, so it's like the best of both worlds. It's history and food together. I love it. And throw in the addition of a handful of Pokemon. Oh, what more could you ask for? So this video has been requested from Arctic-tron, from my Patreon. Thank you so much, my friend. You always suggest the best videos. Thank you so much. So Arctic-tron, you say, hey Boomy, I watched the video from Max Miller about sloppy joes. Yes, very interesting. And I wanted to recommend to you the video that he mentioned that led to him making the sloppy joe video. And it was called Making School Cafeteria Pizza from the 1980s and the 90s. Which also seems to talk about the history of American school breakfast and lunch programs. Okay, that's interesting. Yes, I did watch the Sloppy Joes videos recently. Very, very interesting. It's funny because how we think, or how I've tried to recreate them over here, I don't actually think I mean, I had beans. Is that weird? I don't know what that makes it, but I think it makes it something different to a Sloppy Joe. Like I said, you know, I'm British. We love our beans. Beans go in anything. So Arctic-tron, you say, by the way, I am glad that other people have introduced you to Max Miller. He definitely would have been one of the other channels that you would have introduced me to. Excellent. I think I want to recommend to you a lot of his videos relating to non-American food because it seems like everyone else has already got you covered in that department. Oh, thank you, my friend. Yes, I have a handful of people suggesting the Max Miller videos because, like I say, I love history and I love food. So it's just the best of both worlds. It's a natural progression, I think. So yes, I love his videos. I love his channel. And guys, I got given his cookbook by the wonderful David from my Patreon. Thank you so much, David. I still haven't got around to making one of the recipes. I will very shortly, but I have had a flick through and it's just the illustrations, the history of the recipes. It's so interesting to read. So I think the majority of them, if not all of them, are American, aren't they? But yes, I love it. So interesting. So let's crack on, guys. I've done an awful lot of talking already. You know me. So as ever, guys, if you are enjoying these reactions, please like and subscribe to my channel. If you could, my lovelies, thank you so much. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account. The link is over here. And should you wish to support this channel any further, I have a Patreon account if you fancy checking that out. The link is in the description below.
If you grew up in the 80s and 90s here in the US, then you probably remember Pizza Day at school. For me, it was always on Fridays. And it wasn't just any pizza, but the iconic rectangular pizza that I'll be making today using the original recipe from 1988. So thank you to my Patreon patrons for keeping me flush with ideas for this channel as we go back to middle school for Pizza Day.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I thought you'd stop talking, Max. Sorry. We have Pikachu in the background here. Pikachu with his little chef outfit on. I love it. What was your favorite Pokemon, guys? Am I in a minority? Still liking Pokemon at my age? I know. I'm a big child at heart, really. Right. Okay. So interesting. You guys had your pizza day and it was like a rectangular cut pizza in your middle school. So in our primary school, because in high school, school lunches did just become sausage rolls, really. Unhealthy garbage in most high schools. From my generation anyway, it might have changed recently. But in primary school, school dinners or school lunches, they were definitely something that you look forward to. Even if, looking back, some of the things were a little bit naff, a little bit rubbish. Like a smashed potato, the instant mashed potato. Everybody loved it. And chips were pretty much had on most days. I know, looking back, it seems really unhealthy. Do you guys ever have turkey twisters? Turkey twizzlers, I beg your pardon. Did you ever have them? Or are they purely a British thing? I don't know. Looking back again, they weren't the healthiest. But to little kids, they were super tasty. A turkey drumstick, turkey dinosaurs. But when we had pizza day, our pizzas were circular, so they were all individually cooked pizzas. We never really had the rectangle ones, which probably doesn't make them too economic. But yeah, they were individual, little teeny weeny pizzas.
This time on Tasting History. So I don't usually cover history from the 80s and 90s or anything that recent here on the channel, but when somebody posted on the Tasting History Reddit page the original recipe for this pizza that I so loved in elementary and middle school, I decided that I just had to make it. So this is an episode of Tasting My History. So the recipe comes from a 1988 booklet which was distributed to schools all over the U.S. called Quantity Recipes for School Food Service from the United States Department of Agriculture. And it has recipes for all of your late 20th century school favorites like instant mashed potatoes, sloppy joes, or Salisbury steak, children.
It's Salisbury Steak Day.
But my favorite was the square pizza, or really rectangular pizza. And there are a few variations when it comes to how they made this pizza, the first being the crust. For pizza dough, use pizza crust recipe, see B14, or pourable pizza crust recipe, see B15. Pourable pizza crust, you say? Well, I am intrigued.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if my lunch lady used this recipe or if she did the regular pizza crust, but I want to make pourable pizza crust, so that's what I'm going to do.
Your lunch ladies, just out of interest, guys. I've seen lots of American sitcoms and TVs and cartoons, you know, I'm thinking of like The Simpsons. And lunch ladies, traditionally, we're all of yours, like, you know, the chain smoking, don't really care whatever's going on with the kids. How true was that for you from the 80s and the 90s? Now, for us, everybody loved the dinner ladies because they always acted as kind of like, oh, what do you call them? Like a midday supervisor. So kind of like an on-duty member of staff that just supervised the kids while the teachers had their lunch. And so they'd be in the cafeteria and then they'd be on the playground. So they'd always end up like, you know, playing jump rope, skipping ropes with the kids, or hopscotch, or, you know, refereeing the football. So we all loved them. And most of the time they were other kids' mums, or, you know, you'd know them one way or another. So we just absolutely adored them. Was that not the same for you guys?
Now, the recipe calls for 100 servings. I don't need 100 servings of pizza, so I'm going to reduce it to 10 servings of pizza, for which you will need 2½ teaspoons or 7 grams of active dry yeast, 1 2/3 cup or 375 milliliters of warm water, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 2½ cups or 320 grams of all-purpose or bread flour, 3/4 of a cup or 55 grams of instant non-fat dry milk, 2 tablespoons or 25 grams of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1½ teaspoons of vegetable oil plus more for greasing the pan, and 1½ tablespoons or 15 grams of cornmeal. So first dissolve the dry yeast into the water and let it sit for 5 minutes. While it sits, add the flour, dry milk, sugar, and salt in a stand mixer and mix using the whisk attachment on low for 4 minutes. I'm not sure exactly why it has you whisk it for so long at this point since there is no liquid in it yet, but that's what the recipe says, so that's what I'm doing. After 4 minutes, add the yeast, which should be nice and frothy, and the vegetable oil to the dough, or actually it calls it a batter, and continue to mix on a medium speed for 10 minutes. And while it mixes, you can get your pan ready. Now, the recipe actually calls for 5 sheet pans, but sheet pans are actually massive. They're not going to fit in a home oven. So the ones that we use at home, even the large ones, are half sheet pans. So that's what I'm going to use, and I'm only going to use one of them, which will be for 10 servings. So coat the half sheet pan in a little more oil, and then sprinkle the top with cornmeal, trying to get it evenly distributed. Once the batter is ready, pour it into the pan and spread it out to cover the base. Now, I really thought I screwed up here because there is no way that this amount of dough was going to cover the bottom of the pan, but I left it for a couple of minutes and it sort of relaxed and I eventually had a nice thin layer of dough all over. That's probably why the recipe says to let the dough sit for 20 minutes while you preheat your oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit or 425 if you are using a convection oven. That's 245 degrees or 218 degrees Celsius for those of you not living in the US or in the other handful of countries that still uses Fahrenheit. I see you, my friends, in the Federated States of Micronesia. So
Thank you for converting that, Max. Yeah, that's kind of standard for pizza. Pizza goes on a hotter temperature, doesn't it, than really anything else. So far, so good. Would you substitute the vegetable oil for an olive oil? Olive oil, it is my oil of choice these days. Maybe at the time, maybe it was slightly more expensive than vegetable oil. I'm not sure.
Once the dough is sat for 20 minutes, set it in the oven and bake for 10 minutes or 7 minutes if you are using convection. Now at this point the dough should be pre-baked. It's not fully baked through, but it's going to have some more time in the oven once we've added our toppings. And when it comes to toppings, we have a couple of options. There is the pizza with cheese topping and one for pizza with ground beef topping. Now maybe my school never had the ground beef topping, or maybe I just never got it. I can't honestly remember, but I do only remember eating this as a cheese pizza, so that's the one that I'm going to make. So for that, what you'll need is 1 tablespoon and 2 teaspoons or 12 grams of dried onions, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, a half cup plus 2 tablespoons or 160 grams of tomato paste, 1 1/3 cups or 330 milliliters of water, 2 teaspoons dried basil, 2 teaspoons dried oregano, 1 1/2 teaspoons dried marjoram, a half teaspoon dried thyme, and 5 1/4 cups or 565 grams of mozzarella cheese shredded. If you do want to make the ground beef version, then just cut the amount of cheese in half and replace it with just under a pound of ground beef that you cook before putting it onto the pizza. But for the cheese version, you start by mixing the onions, garlic powder, pepper, tomato paste, water, and the seasonings in a saucepan, and then bring it to a simmer on the stove.
Ooh, that looks like a nice pizza sauce, doesn't it, guys? Right, we never had any alternative flavors other than cheese pizza. But, you know, we were just excited to have pizza, and it always had those, for any of our viewers from the US, you'll know what I'm talking about, those little square tomato chunks. They were all very uniform, always exactly the same size, almost like they're not really tomato. What are they? And everyone picked them off anyway. I don't know why. Obviously, picky eaters as children, but really they were just tiny, weeny pieces of tomato. Why we picked them off was absolutely bizarre. But yes, we didn't have any other toppings, not even pepperoni. I know. I do think that's probably because of the amount of picky eaters that is amongst children. I don't know whether it's just specific to the UK, but there was an awful lot of picky eaters. So like I say, we even picked the tomato off, and I don't even really think I'm a picky eater, or was. So never mind, introduce a new pizza flavor, heaven forbid.
And let it simmer for about 10 minutes. While it simmers, spread 1 1/2 cups of the cheese over the pizza crust, and then once the sauce has simmered for 10 minutes, pour that over the cheese, smoothing it out evenly. Again, it didn't really seem that there was going to be enough sauce, but there was, though as I spread it, I sort of messed up the cheese. And it seems that this was actually a problem even back in 1988, because in later recipes from the 90s, they just have you add that 1.5 cups of cheese to the sauce before putting it on. It probably makes it a lot easier. Yeah. Once the tomato sauce is spread to the edges of the pan, sprinkle the remaining cheese evenly over the top. Now, if you recall, these pizzas did not have a crust around the edge like a round pizza, so you want to get the cheese all the way to the edge of the pan. Ooh. Then pop that in the oven at 475 degrees Fahrenheit, 450 if you're using convection, and let it bake until it is lightly browned on top. The original recipe says it should bake for 15 to 18 minutes, but for me that was going to be way too long. It only took about 11 minutes to get brown on top, and I think that's just because I'm making 1/10 of the original quantity, so just keep an eye on it. Now there are 2 other interesting things in this booklet that I wanted to share. First are the garnishes. It gives instructions on how to make carrot ribbons or curls, celery fans, radish roses, onion mums, radish tulips, or a tomato rose. And personally, I don't ever remember my lunch lady making us any radish roses. And frankly, I think it's kind of unfair to expect an already very busy lunch lady or lunchman to make radish roses for a bunch of 6-year-olds. Kind of a waste of time, but if they did that at your school, let me know. The other interesting bit is that after each recipe, it tells you how much each serving of the dish equals servings of meat, vegetable, and bread. Like when it comes to our cheese pizza, not the meat pizza, but the cheese pizza, 1 piece provides the equivalent of 2 ounces of cooked lean meat, a 1/4 cup of vegetable, and 2 servings of bread. And that's really what school lunch was all about. It was making sure that the kids got enough servings of meat, vegetable, and bread, or nutrients in general. Or at least that was the goal, though it didn't always happen, as can be seen by the lunches of the late 20th century. Last year I did a video on the history of school lunch, and it focused mostly on the history pre-1960.
Oh, just before we move on, I think, and I'm pretty sure maybe the aim of school lunches in the US was probably the same as the aims of the lunches in the UK around that time era. And it was just to make sure that everyone had a nice full tummy. You know, maybe the logic was any meal is better than nothing, you know. Coming out of the 80s, I think there was like a fair amount of kind of normalized poverty, I'd say, and children going hungry, parents not being able to, you know, make their finances stretch to make however many meals in a day to feed so many people. So I think the general aim for the school dinners was just to ensure that, you know, if the kids go home in the evening and they don't have a meal, well, at least they've had a hot meal that they've enjoyed in school time. So I'm assuming it was the same. Obviously, now we're a lot more concerned about the nutrients that go into that lunchtime meal. But yeah, you know, maybe it's a different time. They were more concerned with just having something in your tummy.
So I decided that this would be a good chance to fill in some of the gaps post-1960. And the first thing that I found actually came from a comment left on that video about how the Black Panther Party influenced the school breakfast program. See, in the late 1960s, a study came out showing that kids who didn't have breakfast didn't do as well in school. They were tired, they would fall asleep, they couldn't concentrate.
Yeah.
Kind of makes perfect sense, enough that you wouldn't even think you'd need a study to show you that, but they did. And it also showed that most of these kids were in poorer neighborhoods where they didn't have breakfast in the morning, usually because they couldn't afford it. Yeah. So in 1969, the Black Panther Party started a program at a church in Oakland, California that provided free breakfasts to children who needed them. That first day, there were only 11 kids that showed up, but by the end of that first week, 135 kids were participating every day.
Wow.
The success of the program was so great that the party decided that they would have all of their chapters repeat it. So this breakfast program that the Black Panthers were doing was happening all over the country, and it got really, really big. So big that it grabbed the attention of the FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, who hated the Black Panthers.
Oh.
He hated pretty much everything. And this program that gave children free breakfast was so successful that Hoover decided it needed to be stopped. The program represents the best and most influential activity going for the BPP, and as such is potentially the greatest threat to efforts by authorities to neutralize the BPP and destroy what it stands for.
Now, this might be very, very ignorant of me, but I don't understand. There's probably context that I'm missing. Why on earth would you hate the Black Panther Party? I don't know what it is that they stand for, but as far as I can see right now is that they are fueling young people with breakfast in schools. What? Am I missing something here? What's so awful about that?
Nice guy, that J. Edgar. He began a campaign that spread rumors that the Black Panthers were poisoning the breakfasts, and that didn't work. So instead, he just had police go in and bust the places up, destroying all of the food before it could be served to the kids. Unfortunately, it was effective, and it led to the program being discontinued and breaking up. But it had already become so popular that it couldn't go away. That program went away, but the kids' desire for breakfasts did not. So it gave a big boost to another program that had already been in effect since 1966 but hadn't really taken off. And that was a government-run program called the School Breakfast Program, which Congress permanently authorized in 1975. Though it also came under fire only 6 years later when big budget cuts hit the government, and it did stick around and is still around today, but even today it remains a political football. But it was during these budget cuts early on in the Reagan administration that led to another rather infamous lunch claim that the government was going to consider ketchup a vegetable. Now, how this came about was that during discussions at the USDA about how they could keep kids fed in light of these budget cuts to the school lunch program, they had a meeting where ideas could be freely tossed around. Anything goes. It was kind of one of those meetings where it's like, just say what you're thinking, there are no bad ideas.
So, The obvious solution was to kind of, loosen up the definition of what's a vegetable. Do you know how much sugar? Of course, most of you do. There is so much sugar in ketchup. I mean, you can't deny a vegetable's in it.
Well, one person had the idea to change the nutrition standards a little bit, which would allow relish and ketchup to be considered a vegetable. Now, that was a bad idea, and unfortunately, somebody wrote it down, and it didn't get removed. Now, it never actually became policy, but the whole ketchup is a vegetable thing did get out into the public, and there was severe blowback, rightly so. As one senator criticized, this is one of the most ridiculous regulations I ever heard of, and I suppose I need not add that I do know something about ketchup and relish, or did at one time. And the reason he says that he knows something about ketchup and relish is that senator was Henry J. Heinz III of the Heinz ketchup family. But officially, the government never actually considered ketchup to be a vegetable. Okay. That is not to say that there were not other dubious claims made to the school lunch program. Going back all the way to 1975, there was a pilot program started first in Las Vegas, and then that spread to New York, Milwaukee, and several other cities, where schools began changing their lunch menus to more mimic the fast food that was becoming popular with the students. This led to menus with beef and cheese tacos, cheese pizzas, a meat and bean-filled burrito, a corn dog, fried chicken, and all-beef hamburger. Hard-boiled eggs, cottage cheese, and a chef salad are also available. They also had a new alternative to milk, which the USDA signed off on as an approved alternative to milk, and it was called the Super Shake, which was essentially a milkshake, but they didn't use ice cream. But it did use emulsifiers and stabilizers that impart the creamy texture. The finished shakes are 96.75% fat-free, which would not be possible if they were made with ice cream. To meet the requirement of kids needing to have a vegetable on their plate, they gave the children two options: a salad or French fries. And not shocking to anyone, the number of students choosing salad over fries has to be considered negligible. The thing is, these were actually the healthy meals. These were the meals that hit all the standards that would allow them to be reimbursed by the US government. But there were other meals being offered that did not meet these standards. And so many students were seen taking lunches such as 2 cinnamon buns and a Coke, 4 sugar cookies and Sprite, 2 bags of French fries and a milkshake, or simply a glass of soda. And yet, even with these criticisms, the Las Vegas high school lunch was superior to most of the 135 sampled around the country several years ago. But neither the fast foodification of the 1970s nor the budget cuts of the 1980s would compare to what happened to school lunches in the 1990s, when I was eating them. See,
oh, did you see that photo? That's adorable. Yeah, so in the 90s anyway, we were offered vegetables with all of our school dinners, to be fair, but they were an alternative. They were optional. Now, I'm thinking of that very sad looking container of carrot batons that was always filled to the brim at the end of every canteen sit-in, because what child in their right mind is going to pick those carrots over chips or French fries? Come on, they're not daft, are they?
In the 1970s, they tried to mimic the fast food of the time. But in the 1990s, new regulations were put in that let the fast food companies just come right on into the schools. There were branded products from McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Pizza Hut, you name it, it was there.
Well, we never had that.
Every school had this. My school never did. And at the time, we kids did not like that. But in hindsight, probably a good thing. But by the year 2000, 1 out of 5 schools in the US had some of these branded products.
No. For real? We definitely didn't get this at all. Like, even if there are just a handful of UK fast food places, we didn't have those either. This reminds me of an episode of Clarence, for anyone who's ever seen that. And they have this episode where a chicken company comes in. Is that Chick-fil-A? Actually, if it is, I completely get the joke about the sauce, because it's actually addictive, isn't it? It's unbelievable. Like, I will eat everything with that Chick-fil-A sauce. So, could be that.
Now, it does
No
seem
idea
that
what
the
we're
late
talking about.
90s and early 2000s were kind of the worst period nutritionally for American school lunches, with about 35% of the calories coming from fat.
Sausage
but
rolls
eventually,
were a big
schools
problem with
began
ours.
to fight back. Even when I was in high school, there was a push to get rid of the vending machines. And they either got rid of them while I was there or just after.
Just
I can't really
after,
remember.
yeah.
Anyway, in the last couple of decades, there has been an effort to make school lunches here in the US more nutritious, and in some places they certainly have. But it is still definitely a point of contention and political debate.
That's interesting. Do you have any celebrities that have kind of tried to pilot these schemes in schools? We had Jamie Oliver, and he got rid of our turkey Twizzlers and the turkey drumsticks. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but an awful lot of children did not like it. They were not happy. Now, my generation, obviously, we're millennials. And a lot of millennial adults don't like Jamie Oliver anymore. Don't know if you know who I'm talking about, the chef. Yeah, a lot of millennials blame Jamie Oliver for the disinterest in school dinners. Yeah, so sausage rolls were a huge problem in our high schools. I remember it being particularly bad. Greasy sausage rolls. Now, I love a sausage roll, don't get me wrong. Very, very tasty. But the ones that they served in our high school, the grease from them would soak through the bags that they were served in. Oh, they were bad.
But that is food
Nothing but
present,
acne.
and I am all about food history. So let us travel back in time to 1988, when a 5-year-old Max walked into Madison Heights Elementary to try his first slice of square pizza. So once your pizza has baked, take it out of the oven and cut it into slices. I had planned on doing 10 slices, but it turns out cutting that into 10 was going to be kind of wonky, so I cut them into 9. And here we are, school lunch from 1988. So it smells just like it did 30 some odd years ago.
Oh!
Let's see if it tastes that way too.
Nostalgia. Ooh. You can see it in his face. All those memories come flooding back. That's so sweet.
Memories from the corners of my mind. That's my best Barbra Streisand. Tastes just like it. You can, like, all of those herbs are exactly the same as they were. I think maybe it tastes a little fresher than I remember. Like, the flavors are a little heightened, but that's them. This is the pizza.
The same.
And that's the dough. That pourable dough. That must be what they were using at my school, because that is the dough. I also love that today I would never think of drinking chocolate milk with pizza, but in middle school, I always had chocolate milk with pizza. They were smaller. I searched for a carton that was smaller, and I couldn't find it. I was told by my sister, who recently stopped teaching elementary school, that her school still has the little cartons, and that I should just go to an elementary school and ask for a carton. But I thought that might be weird, so I got a big one. It's good. Still goes with pizza. I should have made all 100 slices. So if you are nostalgic for this pizza, might I suggest you make it? It's pretty cool to taste this flavor, because I don't think they make it anymore, at least not like this at schools. And kudos to all of the lunch ladies and lunch men out there today and from my past. They do the good work. Oh, also, something that my sister reminded me of about the chocolate milk. Does anyone else remember there was a period of like 1 or 2 years in many schools where they switched from the cartons to these bags of milk, either regular or chocolate milk. And it was like a clear bag. It was like a bladder of milk. It was kind of gross. You just stuck the straw in like a Capri Sun, but on its side.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember that? Because I remember it, she remembers it, but none of our friends seem to. So we were thinking maybe we were crazy. Anyway, let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time on Tasting History.
You know what's interesting is that in our schools, I don't know if maybe this was just my school. I don't think it's like, I don't know if it's a general rule actually. We had milk at snack time or break time. It was offered around. But then at lunchtime, our choices were water, or we used to call them tip tops, little or Calypso cartons, and they're just like a carton of juice with a film layer on the top, and you pop it through with a straw. And everyone loved those. But we didn't have milk or chocolate milk. I don't remember that ever being a flavoured milk that was offered out at snack time. It's weird differences, isn't it? Did you see Max's face? Got normal Max, and then as soon as he's tried this pizza, you can see this whimsical kind of wisp of nostalgia just change his expression. This glazed over, like you can see all of those memories come flooding back, and there's like his childhood wonder. It was lovely. The power of food. I know I say it often, guys, but this is the power of food. You know, it's a very, it's a powerful thing, cooking for people and experiencing the flavours that you loved as a child. There we go. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching along with me, and thank you, Arctic Tron, for requesting this video. I do love watching any of Max Miller's videos, and I enjoy seeing his Pokemon there as well. Well, guys, take care of yourselves. Much love, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.